Do not adjust your sets. There are two of us out here. Yes, indeed. This is my new co-host, Bobbi Higgins.
Hello.
Welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you.
It takes two people to replace Lisa Hart. I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, definitely. She's done it quite a while and was very comfortable with it. So did a good job.
Bobbi and I will be on sometimes together, but a lot of times we'll just be doing the individual hosting thing. But Bobbi, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got your start and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I've been. It's funny. Back when I was in high school, we had a student-produced news show, and that was kind of my first taste of this field, and so I thought I wanted to go and be a news broadcaster, and so my very first internship, I was at USC, and my very first internship, I found out that I didn't like the news as much. Okay. And back then, they didn't have entertainment news. They didn't have other options to do, and the news just seemed a little depressing for me.
I teach at St. Anna College, and I teach a news class. And that's one of the things I tell my students, that this is a great place to find out you love this or you don't, right? Instead of kind of going and trying to find that first job and then quitting it. So it's kind of like that's that whole, like, your 20s is this whole place to try things out and do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from there?
So from there, interesting enough, the person who I was interning under, he was the sports anchor for the 11 p.m. news, and we started dating. He ended up becoming my husband, and so he had also started his own TV production company, so now it's a family thing, and so I just kind of always worked with him, and some people may remember us from locally on Channel 3 on Cox Cable. For a year, I think I was on there for maybe 8 years. He was on there for 25 plus years.
Right. Yeah.
And covering local sports.
And this is Paul Higgins. For those of you who don't know, Paul Higgins. He was a very familiar face on a lot of local television, covering what has become a hard thing to do, covering local sports on television, doing it well, which is it was really fun to watch the local students and all the local kids doing stuff.
It's exciting to see how many athletes from our area went on and then ended up becoming professional athletes and their careers and stuff like that. It's been pretty amazing to just see the pool of talent we have right here in Orange County.
Now, Bobbi and I actually know each other kind of a little bit, because when I was over at Real Orange at PBS, and I brought in Paul. Paul said, hey, would you like to have some local sports every once in a while? We said, that would be great. It'd be fantastic. And so I met Paul, and I met you once or twice. You came in once or twice over the course of the years that Paul was with us, doing kind of our sports segments on our program, Real Orange. So it's kind of very strange that all of a sudden here we are again.
Yes, back then my babies were very young, so I wasn't doing a whole lot of work at that time. I have 5 kids, ages now from 22 to 11. So.
And you have time to be here?
I know. Everyone says, my youngest is going into 6th grade when the fall starts, and so everyone says, once the kids hit middle school, things get a lot easier, and definitely they're at the age where, I'm like, hey, come on, let's go play football, let's go for a bike ride, let's go, and they're like, no, Mom, you're not fun.
When we become embarrassing and not fun, that's the time it's like, okay, I need to start doing some other things and figure out some things I want to do, because my kids don't want to do things with me anymore.
Exactly.
my best part was when both of them got driver's licenses. I have 2, and it was just, the freedom that brings, and you'll discover that in a couple more years. Yes. Except for it's harder to get a car for all 5 kids.
So
tell us a little bit more about, like, your television experience and what you've kind of done and how people have seen you around here. Yeah,
basically, I used to do the sideline reporting for the local football games, and then our career took off in the mid '90s when ESPN started with they created ESPN2. And so we had programming on that station and traveled all over the country, which was great. And then it started moving into Mexico and Canada. Some of the shows we did was like the Vans Triple Crown of skateboarding, a lot of the extreme sports, and those got to know a lot of those athletes, which then when ESPN created originally it was called the Extreme Games, now is called the X Games.
Right.
And so we were right there in the front lines with producing packages for ESPN and interviewing those athletes and meeting their wives and their very first children, and as we traveled with them around for the competitions and stuff.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see you guys and those kind of programs develop, because they were like, oh, these when ESPN first started, they had all this crazy stuff, and then they got so big, and they got so much licensing, they started doing real NFL football. So then ESPN2 comes along, and they kind of go back to their roots of like, let's find these outskirts sports, and now they're so mainstream, the skateboarding and the motocross and all those kind of things that you guys brought to the light are now like, some of them are Olympic sports now.
Yes, it's crazy. We just recently, Tony Hawk, professional skateboarder who, hit it big with at the right time with all this, and just so talented. I think he was on a Burger King or some crazy commercial. We're like, oh my gosh, Tony Hawk is still a face out there. All the kids know who he is. And
all of a sudden he's mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah. And then one of our more recent shows that we've done is called Slippery Stairs. And you were saying you caught it at the fairgrounds.
It was a couple years ago, and I can't remember what it was. It was during the holidays. I feel like that's when it aired, but maybe you remember it better. But it was one of those days when I turn on television, there's Paul Higgins hosting Slippery Stairs.
Yeah, and I did some sideline reporting on that, co-hosting with him as well, and just a crazy show that these athletes. We built the stairs, and there's like slime all over it, and they're in these spandex suits.
People, it's like one of those bounce house slides.
Yeah.
But there were obstacles on the way up, and it was like all oiled up and slippery as heck, and the goal was to beat the other team to the top, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of it?
Yeah. To the athlete, to who could get to the top first and ring the bell. And then the thing was then they had to come back down. So there was a lot of fun with watching it, and that just trended like crazy. And we're like, the whole social media thing, that was a new experience and quite crazy.
Oh yeah. All of a sudden you're getting like, I have likes. What's a like?
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. So tell me all your background and everything that led you to here today.
Sure. Well, I like you, I kind of discovered news in college. And it was at the college radio station at Saddleback College, right down the road from here. And I really enjoyed it. I thought I wanted to be a DJ at first.
Really?
And they had a radio station there, so I thought, I'm going to be a DJ. That'll be really cool. I'll play records all day, and I'll talk, and that'll be that. And then I discovered that, boy, you don't really get to talk that much. And we were playing jazz there, and I didn't really like jazz. And it started getting in my head, well, what if I'm at a station that I don't like the music, and I don't really get to talk that much? And it just wasn't really exciting. I was like, the idea of something is way more sometimes than the actual doing of that thing.
Yeah.
And so then they had a newsroom too, and I thought, oh, this is kind of fun. I can create stories, I can write, I can read those stories on the air, and that's when I started really following that. So I ended up working for the Orange County Register as a local reporter for Laguna News, for the old insert paper they used to put in the Orange County Register.
Yep.
I worked at radio stations, but then when I got to Cal State Fullerton, I kind of crossed over to television. And so that's when I said, okay, this is for me. This is working. It had the visual and the sound, and I could go out there and produce, and we could cut the stories together, and I really enjoyed that. And so then I ended up at OCN. Some people might remember the Orange County News
Channel. Oh, I remember OCN, absolutely. And they did high school football too.
They did too. They did a great job too. They were Paul's competition.
Yes.
But I was an intern there for about a year, and then that's how I landed my first job. I was putting stories together at OCN, and I put that on my demo reel, and I started sending it out around the country. And Abilene, Texas, gave me a call. And they said, I don't think you're ready to be a reporter, but would you like to be a producer? Because they liked my writing, they liked my storytelling. I said, sure, I'd take anything to get in the door, right? And when you're this kid right out of college. And so I took that, and I went there, and I eventually became the weekend anchor, weekday reporter, and did that. And then I came back, and I already mentioned Real Orange. I got a job offer for Real Orange to be a producer, news director there with Ed Arnold and Ann Police, for those who remember Real Orange here, watching that. And I was there for 17 years.
Wow.
And then, right now I'm at Santa Ana College, and I teach all this stuff now.
So now how did it transition? How did you transition to teaching, and how do you like that in comparison to doing this?
I like it a lot, actually. It's kind of fun. I feel like I have all this knowledge of I became like an expert by accident. You're like, here's all the mistakes I made. And I think that's one of the important things I tell my students is you don't learn from your successes. You learn from all the mistakes you made and how I will never do it that way again. I know I think Edison said, I know 10,000 ways it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Making a light bulb, right? And so it's one of those things where it's I have this shared knowledge, and I can do that with the students. And I've been there 8 years now, and I really enjoy it. And then I got a call from a friend of mine over at PBS and said, hey, they're looking for a host over there if you want to do something part-time. And I said, I might give that a try again. So here I am.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad to see you again and that our paths have crossed
I know,
once
right?
again.
Here we are together again for everybody here at Village Television to watch on this day. Well, we're going to come back, and Bobbi will still be here, but we're going to do our announcements, to have a recap of the weather, so stay with us.